أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In our discussion about the rules of Hajj, we said that this is a once in a lifetime experience, an invitation that comes from God, an obligation which has the potential of transforming our whole life, not only temporarily, but till our time of departure from this earthly life. And this is a special invitation that comes from God, which is only obligatory once we qualify. But if we realize that He's the one who gives us the necessary health to be able to perform this journey, and He's the one who grants us the wealth and removes the restrictions from the path to travel, and we have that spiritual life within us whereby we can hear the message, respond to the message, and then carry out the commands of God. We need to be thankful every moment for this great opportunity. Not many get this chance. And inshallah we shall start with the visit to the holy city of Medina of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, declare our loyalty and respect to the Prophet and his holy progeny alayhimus salam. And then once we are ready, we go to the miqat and start the journey for Umrah to Tamattu. We enter into the state of Ihram. We then arrive in Masjid al-Haram, perform the tawaf, the sa'i and the taqsir, and complete the Umrah to Tamattu. And then we await in the holy city of Mecca till the time period for Hajj Tamattu. So we need to remind ourselves what is required of us now in this greater pilgrimage, Hajj Tamattu. Recall that in the holy city of Mecca, we are the guests of God. We've been invited by Him, and we have now been accepted in that we have completed the rituals of the Umrah to Tamattu, the lesser Hajj. And because we've been accepted, now we are allowed to remove and come out from the state of Ihram, and all those restrictions become halal, and therefore we are in the state of Tamattu now. Tamattu means enjoy. Whatever was restricted to you, they have been lifted now. However, in the holy city of Mecca, after completion of Umrah to Tamattu, before we start Hajj Tamattu, there are certain other restrictions that begin to apply, and that is, we cannot perform another Umrah Mufrida, for example. We cannot leave the city, holy city of Mecca. Then suddenly a time arrives when we are told, sorry, you are no longer invited here now. Now you must leave. Around the 8th of Dhul Hijjah or the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, we must leave the holy city of Mecca. So the question is why? Well, we may not know all the answers, but we know this much, that we came here as guests. Our host is all wise. Therefore, any action that he orders has some great wisdom in it. We may or may not understand it. And He's also the all-providing Lord, who will definitely keep some material and spiritual benefits in carrying out these orders. And because He is the all-perfect being, and because He loves perfection, definitely there is greater perfection for us to be achieved than the perfection we accomplished by finishing Umrah to Tamattu. What is that greater purification, greater perfection? Inshallah we shall see as we go along the rituals of Hajj Tamattu. Hajj Tamattu is the bigger pilgrimage. And unlike Umrah Tamattu, which had only 5 wajib rituals, Hajj Tamattu has 12, depending on how you count it, 12 wajib rituals. Number one is that we enter into the state of ihram for the Hajj Tamattu' at the miqat, but in this case miqat is the holy city of Mecca. And then we proceed to engage in the wajib stay at Arafah, and from there then on to Muzdalifah on the day of Eid, and then to Mina on the day of Eid for the performance of these three wajib rituals of stoning and slaughtering and shaving. And then we return back to the holy city of Mecca now for the tawaf and the salatul tawaf, the sa'i. But there's no taqsir now. After sa'i, there's tawaf al-nisa and the salat tawaf al-nisa. And then we return back to Mina for two furthermore stay periods. One is a night stay, the eve of the 11th and the eve of the 12th. And one is a day stay, the day of the 11th and the day of the 12th, and maybe the day of the 13th, and that's an option. So let us look into the details. The first wajib obligation in Hajj Tamattu' now is to proceed to the miqat and to enter into the state of ihram for the sake of Hajj Tamattu'. The holy city of Mecca is designated to be the miqat for Hajj Tamattu'. Which part of Mecca city? The whole of the Mecca city can be a miqat. Some mujtahids, Marhumatul Akho'i, says ihtiyat wajib only the old city of Mecca. So from the area where we would be staying, which is roughly the northern part of Mecca city, which leads to Arafah, the eastern part, the Jannatul Mu'alla becomes the cemetery, becomes the border of the old Mecca city. But it's a mas'ala which is ihtiyat. Other mujtahids say the whole city, and therefore on this mas'ala you can make ruju to other mujtahids and enter into ihram in any part of Mecca. The only problem with Mecca is, over time, the city of Mecca is expanding every year, and new neighborhoods are being created. However, the haram doesn't have a even circumscribed border around Mecca. In some places it is closer to Masjid al-Haram, in some places it's further away from Masjid al-Haram. So for those of us who happen to be living in neighborhoods of Mecca, new neighborhoods which are further away from Masjid al-Haram, we just need to verify that it is within, this new neighborhood of Mecca is within the border of the Haram. So for example, Masjid Tan'im to the north of Masjid al-Haram is the border. Mecca city has now expanded beyond Masjid Tan'im. So if anybody takes up residence beyond Masjid Tan'im, you cannot enter into ihram from Masjid Tan'im. Of course, best location for entering into ihram in the holy city of Mecca is inside Masjid al-Haram. And inside Masjid al-Haram, best location is near the station of the father or the station of the son. Father is Ibrahim alayhi salam, Maqam Ibrahim, or no, the semicircular area near the Kaaba, the Hijr Ismail alayhi salam. So now we know the location of entering into ihram. There is also a time period designated for entering into ihram for Hajj Tamattu'. Preferable on the 8th day of Zil Hijjah, which is known as Yawm al-Tarwiyah. But it can be postponed after 8th of Zil Hijjah till the 9th of Zil Hijjah, up until before the Dhuhr of Zil Hijjah, when we are supposed to start our wajib wuquf and stay at Arafah. Anytime before that, we can enter into ihram to enable us to arrive on time in Arafah to start the wajib wuquf. So some people postpone their ihram for Hajj Tamattu' so that they can do one last tawaf before they depart from Makkah. No problem, but provided you're sure you can. This is mustahab tawaf, but wuquf in Arafah is wajib. So you have to time yourself carefully. Or no, you can enter into ihram on an advanced date before the 8th, 1 day before, 2 days, up to 3 days before the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. But this is only for cases where they fear, because of old age or because of ill health, that they will not be able to enter into ihram because of the crowd and the congestion, or they will not be able to travel because of the crowd and congestion, so they want to go in a time where there is lesser congestion. Allowed, no problem. Or no, suppose somebody plans to leave Makkah. You're not allowed to leave Makkah. You're only allowed to leave Makkah for proceeding for Hajj Tamattu'. But you say, no, I've got some emergency work, it's unavoidable, I have to leave. So then the rule is, if you have to leave before the 8th, then you better enter into ihram for Hajj Tamattu' and then leave Makkah. Carry out your emergency task and then proceed to Arafah. So we want to enter into the state of ihram for Hajj Tamattu'. The procedure is exactly the same as entering into ihram for Umratul Tamattu'. So the same, we take off the ordinary dress, stitched dress, we wear the dress of ihram, and then we make the niyyah of ihram, and then we declare the pronunciation of ihram, which is the talbiyah. So the dress of ihram means that, again, just like it was mustahab for Umratul Tamattu', that we should cleanse our body and make a ghusl of ihram and pray wajib salah, salatul dhuhr, or any other wajib salah, and then we enter into ihram. Again, a quick reminder that ihram with ghasbi dress is batil. Therefore, if after Umrah Tamattu' and before Hajj Tamattu', during that time period, the date of Khums, for example, becomes wajib and due, therefore first the wajib dues have to be paid, and then the ihram should be worn. Same procedure, there's one upper shoulder cloth for males, one lower cloth for the males. For the females, the dress of the hijab is the dress of ihram, only with the requirement that the same conditions for the validity of salah, the dress for salah, will also apply for the dress of hijab in ihram for the ladies. How much should be covered? Just like for Umratul Tamattu' ihram, the shoulder cloth should cover from the shoulder till the navel, and the loin cloth should cover from a little above the navel till below the knee. Mustahab, of course, is that it should flow beyond that. And obviously the dress has to be changed before the niyyah and the talbiyah. Because once you do the talbiyah, you are into ihram. And if you haven't changed the dress, that means you are in stitched dress and you are already into ihram. Haram. So first you remove the stitched and wear the unstitched dress, then you make the niyyah and the talbiyah. And of course the same conditions required for the dress of salah will also apply to the dress of ihram. And buttons not allowed, however pins allowed, so the shoulder cloth can be fastened with a pin, no problem. This is a long journey because we will enter into ihram on the 8th, and we will have to remain in the dress of ihram till the 10th, the day of Eid, after the completion of the rituals of Mina, before we proceed to Makkah for the tawaf. At that time we will be allowed to remove this unstitched dress and wear the stitched dress. So we will be almost 2.5 days to 3 days in this state. So if you may wish to remove, let's say, the shoulder cloth some of the time, no problem, you're allowed to do so. In fact, you can even change, you can wear a second or a third piece of ihram, no problem. However, if you do decide to wear a third piece, then better, but not wajib. Better, once you go for the tawaf, wear the original ihram dress in which you entered into the state of ihram. Again, wajib to cover the private parts. And if somebody wishes to take extra precaution, then they must find something which is unstitched. 2 pieces wajib, more than 2 pieces allowed. However, ihram is a state of purity, and therefore no najasa will be allowed on the dress of the ihram. If a person gets najasa on the dress of ihram and does not remove the najasa, the ihram is not batil, but the person is sinful by not cleansing himself as soon as possible that he notices the najasa. Makruh to use a dark colored dress of ihram, a dirty dress of ihram. Dirty to start with, but if it gets dusty on the way, no problem, that's acceptable. To use decorative colors or pictures on the ihram dress, makruh. After the dress of ihram is worn, the niyyah has to be made. Qurbatan ilallah. Then the niyyah has to be done in the miqat. You may get cases where people are suddenly stressed. They went, last moment they go for a final farewell tawaf. And then they get caught up in traffic. They can't find a car to come back. They're stressed out. They rush and they're told, sorry, we're leaving now. He rushes, goes and comes into the bus and forgets to make the niyyah. Niyyah is important. If for whatever reason the person leaves Makkah without the niyyah of ihram for Hajj Tamattu, even if you have left Makkah, you must return back to Makkah to make the niyyah. So niyyah is important. At the miqat, which is the holy city of Makkah, the niyyah obviously that I am entering into ihram for Hajj Tamattu. It has to be specified because it could be Hajj Ifrad for some cases. And is it for yourself or for your sponsor or for your beneficiary? And is it a wajib Hajj or an ihtiyat Hajj or a mustahab Hajj? This has to be specified. Do you need to speak out aloud the niyyah? Better so, but not wajib. So, the niyyah would be, I'm entering into the state of ihram for the sake of Hajj Tamattu, which is part of my wajib ada of Hajjatul Islam, or is part of my mustahab Hajj, or part of my ihtiyat Hajj. Or no, God forbid, there are cases where the previous year Hajj is batil because of a violation, and now there's a penalty Hajj that must be done, either for myself or a sponsor, qurbatan ilallah. And once the dress and the niyyah has been prepared, then we have to recite the talbiyah now to enter into the state of ihram. Wajib to say 4 labbayks. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk la sharika laka labbayk. Bas. This is wajib. Mustahab also to say innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika laka labbayk. Mustahab, not wajib. Obviously, the whole purpose of this exercise from ustaz to remind us all the time is to learn the correct pronunciation of this wajib dhikr. And therefore, those of us who cannot pronounce it correctly must make efforts to learn. If you're not confident, please check with the ustaz. Is tahara required at the time of entering into the state of ihram to be in the state of wudu or ghusl? No, not required. Better, but not required. Where do you start making the wajib pronunciation of the labbaik? In the city of Makkah. And you continue till you reach Arafah, either on the 9th day or even before the 9th day on the 8th itself, no problem. But once you arrive in Arafah, labbaik should stop. Labbaik is come over. Yes, Master, I'm coming. I'm coming. Once you arrive at your destination from Umrah Tamattu, once you arrive in Mecca, you stop labbaik. I'm coming, Master. Once you arrive in Arafah, you stop reciting labbaik. And obviously, once we are in the state of ihram, the restrictions of ihram will begin to apply. as the ayah says in Surah Baqarah, Al-Hajju Ashhurun Ma'lumat. Hajj can only be performed in specific months. Shawwal for Umrah, Dhi Qa'dah for Umrah, but Dhi Hijjah for Hajj Tamattu' now. فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ. Whoever now enters into Ihram in this month of Dhi Hijjah, فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Then there are certain restrictions that must be observed. So we said that these restrictions, 26 of them, can be categorized and alphabetized. We've already discussed this before, so I'm not going to repeat them, but just a reminder. I've put in red ink those issues which are important for you to recall. So in affectionate behavior, remember, looking with lust has got a penalty. Touching with lust has got a penalty, so beware. Beautification. Looking into the mirror, the danger exists as you're leaving the building, you're traveling in the lift, for example, which may have a mirror. Or you're sitting in the bus, which may have a mirror. So be careful. Self-beautification is going to be very sunny and hot out in the Arafah desert and in Mina. You're allowed to wear, if you have prescription glasses, you're allowed to wear goggles. Beware, they should not be decorative or beautifying goggles. It's going to be a long stay in the hot desert. If you've got dry skin, you want to apply some cream, no problem, but beware, it should not be a perfumed cream, otherwise there's a kafara for that. Perfume not allowed in the state of Ihram. We're going to be away for several days, so some of us may wish to wash ourselves, but then beware, the soap that you use should not be perfumed. We want to brush your teeth, don't use minted, fragranced paste. Use salt, for example, to wash your mouth. Or use the miswak, which should be easily available in the market there. Nail cutting and hair. Nail cutting will not be a problem because before we enter into Ihram for Hajj Tamattu', we've already stayed a week or so in Mecca after Umrah Tamattu'. Again, mustahab to trim our nails. But hair fall could be a problem because 2 days or more we are in the state of Ihram. Even by wiping and swiping, if hair falls off, there's a minor kafara for that. So beware, keep account. Clothing, we say that for males, they're not allowed to take shade during traveling at the daytime, or even during the nighttime for the followers of Marhumatul Khoi, the gents. So if it's unavoidable and you did travel at night and took shade, there's a penalty of a goat. Head cover, not allowed. The problems of using a mobile phone such that it covers part of the ear or whole of the ear, and the ear is part of the head, which should not be covered in Ihram. Beware, there is a kafara for that. We will be resting for a night, 2 nights, one in Arafah and one in Muzdalifah, and therefore you may wish to use a blanket or a cover. You can cover every part of your body for the males, from the feet up till the face, the hairline. Beyond the hairline you can't cover with your blanket anymore, because head cover not allowed for males. For females, the wajib hijab will apply, but they're not allowed to cover their faces. So if you use a blanket or any other cover, you should not cover your face while resting. Facial cover for women, again, not allowed. The 2 pieces of ihram, the unstitched pieces, am I allowed to take them off? Yes, you can take off the shoulder cloth and the loin cloth, obviously in a place where there is no other person to look at you, whenever you need to answer the call of nature, for example. Or no, you wish to take ghusl or take a shower, allowed, no problem. Footwear, haram in the state of ihram, but to cover your feet with your own ihram, no problem, you're allowed to do so, because the ihram dress is not footwear. Defense behaviors, we said that beware of toothbrushing, which could cause bleeding. Hazrat al-Sistani says, toothbrushing is a sunnah, and therefore even if it causes bleeding, no problem. Mahmumayatullah Khoi says, ihtiyat, avoid it if you know it's going to cause bleeding. Removal of blood, let's say you feel an itch and you want to scratch, be careful, don't scratch with force. Carrying arms will not apply, but hurting insects, harmless insects, for example mosquitoes or ants. This is the first time where you'll get the challenge, because now we're going to be sleeping in the desert in Arafah. It's just a tent which has a rug kept on desert sand. Or in Muzdalifah. In Muzdalifah there's no tent even. We may be exposed to insects, so we need to be careful. Unless, of course, you fear that the insect is a harmful insect. In that situation, you're allowed to kill the insect to protect yourself. And finally, argumentation in the name of God. Wallahi and billahi, haram. And to boast or to speak lies or to abuse a mu'min, haram. Outside ihram, more so inside the ihram. Once again, a quick reminder, some of these violations amongst the 26 violations are quite serious and they have a penalty. So beware, if accidentally you do any one of them, there is no kafara. Some of them, even if you have a medical necessity for violating, still there is a kafara. So make a note so that you can carry out your duty of paying the kafara. Question. So we are entering into the state of ihram for Hajj Tamattu'. What is the spiritual dimension of this ritual? One way to understand the spiritual dimension is to look at the mustahab aspects. It gives us a guideline. So look at this hadith of the 6th Holy Imam. You wait in the holy city of Mecca after Umrah Tamattu' till the day of Tarwiyah, the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Inshallah, you wait till that time, Imam says, and then go and perform your ghusl, meaning the ghusl of ihram, and wear your 2 pieces of unstitched clothing of ihram, and then you enter Masjid al-Haram, that is, but enter with bare feet. Barefootedness as a sign of humility, and enter with dignity and respect, with seriousness and solemnity, and of course with a sense of humility. Go and pray 2 rak'ah salah mustahab of ihram near Maqam Ibrahim, or no, in Hijr Ismail, and then wait. Do this during the daytime, then wait till Dhuhr. So go there before Dhuhr. Till the time of Dhuhr, then make your wajib salah, Salat al-Dhuhr, depending on whether you are in Mecca for 10 days and more, so it is wajib to pray 4 full rak'ah, or no, you are staying less than 10 days in Mecca from the time of arrival from Medina till the time of departure to Arafah, less than 10 days, then you have an option, pray full or half. And then after the wajib salah of Dhuhr, recite the same du'as that we had guided you to recite, the Imam says, in Masjid Shajara. They are mustahab du'as to recite at that time. And then after the mustahabbat, enter into the state of ihram again, in a state of dignity and solemnity and humility. Notice that I am now to begin a bigger pilgrimage. This bigger pilgrimage is different from the lesser pilgrimage. The difference is now I have to spend time in Arafah and Muzdalifah and carry out the 3 rituals in Mina, which makes this the bigger pilgrimage. But I am doing this in following the model example of submission to God and sacrifice to God and prayer to God and fighting the devil for the sake of God, the way Ibrahim alayhi salam did, the way Ismail alayhi salam did. And therefore better to start this prophetic journey with the Prophet, Go to Maqam Ibrahim and enter into ihram. Go to Hijr Ismail and enter ihram. Mustahab, but not wajib. And of course the hadith of Imam Rida alayhi salam, where he says that entering into ihram has got several benefits and reasons. One of them is that to train us to avoid worldly pleasures. Yes, but I came to Mecca by entering into ihram for Umrah to Tamattu, so I avoided the worldly pleasures. No, that was not enough. You now need to avoid, not for a short time period of Umrah to Tamattu, now you need to avoid for a longer time the Hajj Tamattu. So basically, I went into ihram, pleasures became haram. I finished my ihram of Umrah Tamattu, now everything becomes halal. I'm in the state of Tamattu. Yes, I can enjoy myself. Now again I'm being told, no, all the pleasures, the halal pleasures that is, become haram once again. No, I'm supposed to avoid. This is a disciplining control that the human being should appreciate. Whatever he has, whatever resources, faculties, benefits, and bounties he has, they are from God. One, the ability of the individual to enjoy these pleasures from God. Number two, the permission therefore to enjoy when and how much, it should be by God. Number three, so that state of appreciation, of acceptance, of acknowledgement of the all-providing Lord, of the all-wise Lord, of the all-training and cherishing and nourishing Lord, and therefore I become a total humble slave to Him, and I live my life according to His plan, not according to anybody else's plan. That's the purpose of the ihram. And then mustahab, one way to appreciate the spirituality of ihram is to look at the mustahab aspects. So mustahab for talbiyah, that repeat the talbiyah from the time you leave Makkah till the time you reach Arafah. Repeat as much as you can. At the time you're embarking on your bus, disembarking, at the time the bus ascends or descends over hills, at the time, whether it's daytime or nighttime, assuming that the travel is long. After the wajib prayers, repeat again the talbiyah, obviously before you reach Arafah. Even before you go to sleep, the first thing you do when you wake up, repeat the talbiyah. And basically enter into a mode whereby in your life back home, you kept on saying labbaik to your nafs, labbaik to somebody, other human being, labbaik to the devil, labbaik to the dunya. But now you only say labbaik to Allah. Not once, again and again and again, every moment that you are in the state of ihram. I've already mentioned this before, a reminder once again. Beware, once you are in the ihram of Hajj Tamattu, and before you leave Makkah, don't consider that I want to go and do Umrah now that I'm in the state of ihram. Sometimes the temptation arises because most of the Muslims will start leaving Makkah before the 8th to arrive in Mina on the 8th. If you go to Masjid al-Haram after 8th, obviously the crowd is reduced. And therefore the temptation may be there. I want to do a mustahab tawaf. I'm in ihram for Hajj Tamattu. I'm in Masjid al-Haram. Hajar al-Aswad, open, available. Let me do one mustahab tawaf. No, haram. Qanini, for sababu, you were a guest for all those days after Umrah Tamattu. Now your host says, sorry, you're no longer invited now. Now you must leave. I'm not going to accept your tawaf. I don't want your tawaf. I want the tawaf that I ask you to do. It is shaitan who says, I will worship you the way I want, not the way you want. In ihram, no tawaf, no umrah. So we are in the state of ihram for Hajj Tamattu. The next wajib act of Hajj Tamattu is to go to stay in Arafah on the 9th. But mustahab to proceed to Mina on the 8th. And in Mina, mustahab to pray the Dhuhr on the 8th, to pray the Maghribain on the 8th, and to pray the Fajr on the 9th, and then proceed to Arafah, to arrive before the Dhuhr on the 9th. And then also to pray these prayers in Masjid al-Khif in Mina, the masjid where hundreds of prophets came and made ibadah to God. So this is an illustration which shows that the departure from Mecca, before we arrive at Arafah, passes through Mina. So mustahab to go to Mina first. Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ himself went there, but it's not wajib. The Prophet was asked, if somebody decides not to go to Mina, it's no problem, your Hajj is sahih. In the past, many caravans would take the Hujjaj to Mina, but then the problem arises on the 9th. There's a huge number of Hujjaj all simultaneously leaving Mina to go to Arafah. Sometimes the traffic is so heavy, you get stuck, delayed, you don't arrive in Arafah till after Dhuhr, no, till near Maghrib on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. To stay in Arafah wajib, to go to Mina mustahab. If you are not sure that you can arrive on time, skip the stay in Mina. So the next part of the wajib Hajj Tamattu' is the stay in Arafah. A reminder once again, in the state of Ihram, for the gents, no shade allowed above the head. Whether it's nighttime for the followers of Marhumat al-Khoi or daytime for the followers of Hazrat al-Sistani. So for those traveling by bus, should look for an open bus. If no open bus, then they should sit on the roof of the bus. Again, if the traffic laws allow and if the health of the individual allows. So once we're in Arafah on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, we have to begin our stay and wuquf on the 9th. And the niyyah would be, I'm making my wuquf in Arafah as part of my Hajj Tamattu', which is part of my wajib Hajj, mustahab Hajj, ihtiyat Hajj, or penalty Hajj for myself or for my sponsor or beneficiary, qurbatan ila Allah. Where in Arafah am I supposed to make my wuquf? The boundaries are well known. Once you enter, you reach that area, you'll see clear signs. Arafah begins here. Another sign on the other side, Arafah ends here. The boundaries are clear. Generation across generation, from the time of the Prophet and before that, the signs have been clearly demarcating the area. Jabal al-Rahma makruh to make a wuquf on it. How should we make the wuquf and the stay? Though it is called wuquf, and wuquf means to stand, but actually what is required is just a stay. You could sit and not stand, or you could stand throughout that wajib period. In fact, you can even move, you can even take a ride within the boundaries of Arafah, of course. However, wuquf means stay, but stay means a conscious, wakeful stay. Not that before Dhuhr you go to sleep and you wake up after Maghrib. Sorry, you've missed the wuquf. When is the time period for the wuquf? It's from the Dhuhr of the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. Dhuhr, obviously, you're allowed to delay the wuquf, to start the wuquf a few minutes after the actual Dhuhr, because at the Dhuhr time it is wajib to pray Salat al-Dhuhr. So you go and make your wudu, and you come in and pray your salah. After salah, you start your wuquf, no problem. And what if you say, no, I wish to perform the ghusl of the day of Arafah. And so you say to Dhuhr, and before I start my wuquf, I don't want to make wudu only, I'm going to make ghusl, which is going to be a few minutes longer. No problem. A reasonable time period, which is required for the ghusl, is allowed for you to delay to start your wuquf. But better, make your niyyah for wuquf, at the time of dhuhr, then go do your wudu if you have not done your wudu before the time of dhuhr, or the ghusl before the time of dhuhr. And the time of wuquf extends till maghrib, which is 10-15 minutes after sunset. Hazrat Ali Sistani says no, the wuquf should be till sunset. Arafah is an open, wide, plain land. This is an old picture, 124 years ago. We've already seen the Niyyah. This is the picture of Jabal al-Rahmah in Arafah. And this is the borders of the Haram. It's an interesting idea, which the hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam says that, do you know why, despite being a guest of God in the holy city of Makkah, now He's asking you to enter into a state of restriction and prohibition of ihram and go out of the holy city of Makkah. And that also goes so far away, the furthest point away, which is to come to the southeast part of Makkah at a point known as Arafah. Arafah is just outside the boundary of the Haram. Please leave the Haram. Arafah is the gateway to enter into Haram now. Go outside the Haram and engage in the wajib wuquf there and make your prayers there and your repentance. So why are we asked to go to Arafah outside the Haram? Perhaps, as the riwayat say, that God wants us to go and pray to Him. Arafah is the day of dua, Yawm al-Dua wa Yawm al-Mas'ala. Come and beg, come and ask, come and beseech, come and supplicate. And no supplication will be accepted if you are sinful. Repent from your sins also. Confess, admit, and ask for forgiveness, and weep. And remember, not only you, Hajji, every one of the apostles of God, beginning from Adam alayhi salam till the last messenger, all of them came to this holy land and underwent this experience of praying to the Lord. And the Lord has promised, I'll forgive all your sins, all of them. By the time the sun sets, your sins will be forgiven and your du'as will be accepted, except for certain sins, and those are the human rights. If you have violated some people's rights, no, those rights cannot be forgiven by you coming to Arafah and asking for forgiveness. You have snatched away somebody's property or money, go and give it back to him, then ask for forgiveness. Don't expect me to forgive you for the hurt that you have done to my servant. And finally, at the time of sunset, Allah proudly announces to the angels, look at my servants. I called them as my guests. After Umrah Tamattu, they were in Makkah. Then I asked them to leave, to come and pray to me, and they've spent the whole day from Dhuhr till Maghrib praying to me. O angels, testify that I, the all-forgiving, the all-pardoning Lord, have forgiven them and accepted their dua. And therefore, it's mustahab to do ghusl in Arafah, to stand as much as possible if we can and not sit, to face the Qibla. Mustahab to be in a state of concentration and not distraction. Mustahab to ask for forgiveness of every sin, sin by sin by sin. We should try to recall and repent. And mustahab to make some special zikr, Subhanallah and Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah and Alhamdulillah and La hawla wa la quwwa 100 times each. Mustahab to recite some surah, Surah Ikhlas 100 times, the 10 verses of Surah Baqarah, Ayatul Kursi 100 times, Surah Qadr 100 times, the ayah from Surah A'raf, ayah 54, Surah Falaq, Surah Nas. Mustahab to recite these surahs. Mustahab to make dua for yourself, for the dunya, for the akhirah, for the mu'mineen. Mustahab to pray salah 100 rak'ah salah, for example. Mustahab to remember the bounties of God. Mustahab to ask specially for protection from the fire of hell and for being granted the Jannah. 70 times recommended to make this dua. And finally, ask God to give you the ni'mah and the opportunity to come back again to this holy land, where you can join the same exercise, spiritual exercise, which every prophet of God came and did here. The next wajib act is the stay in Muzdalifah for Hajj Tamattu'. So at sunset or after sunset, we begin to prepare to leave. Incidentally, Salatul Maghrib becomes wajib at the time of Maghrib, but the Holy Prophet ﷺ did not pray Maghrib in Arafah. The moment the sun set, after Maghrib, he departed from Arafah. He went all the way to Muzdalifah and he prayed delayed Maghrib prayers at the time of Isha. He joined Maghrib and Isha at the time of Isha, inasmuch as he joined Asr at the time of Dhuhr in Arafah on the Dhuhr of the 9th of Zul-Hijjah. So you don't pray Salah, but you depart from Arafah after Maghrib, but in a state of repentance, obviously, because God is now proudly announcing, throughout this period, this servant of mine prayed to me and asked for forgiveness. So I'm pure and pardoned. So now I can enter back and go for tawaf? No, sorry. There is yet another stop to be made, the Muzdalifah stop. There is yet another purification to be done before we can be allowed permission to come for the Tawaf al-Hajj. And therefore one of the recommendations at the time of departure from Arafah is, oh Allah, protect me from the fire of hell. Allahumma atiqni minan nar. To repeat this dua as many times as possible. What is the significance of going to Muzdalifah? In the Quran, in Surah Baqarah, ayah number 197, Allah says, or rather it should be 198, sorry. Allah says, فَإِذَا أَفَضْتُم مِّنْ عَرَفَاتٍ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ. Come and remember God once again in the Mash'ar, the Mash'ar al-Haram. The riwayah says Mash'ar is the second door to the inner chamber outside the house of God. The outer chamber was Arafah. At that door we had to pray. Now we come to the inner chamber and begin to pray once again before we allowed entry to the house of God. What is wajib in Muzdalifah? On the night of the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, that means the eve of Eid al-Hajj, wajib stay in Muzdalifah is, Hazrat al-Sistani says, wajib is to spend a part of the night, not the whole of the night, part of the night, depends when you arrive in Muzdalifah from Arafah. It could be before midnight, at midnight, after midnight, but before Fajr, part of the night spend in Muzdalifah, and wajib continue that stay till sunrise. Marwatul Akhui says no, the wajib period of stay in Muzdalifah is from the Fajr of the Eid day till the sunrise of the Eid day. If you decide not to spend part of the night or whole of the night before Fajr, no problem. That does not invalidate your Hajj. However, to spend the night in Muzdalifah, mustahab. Ihtiyat mustahab. Again, the niyyah, I'm making wuquf in Muzdalifah as part of my Hajj Tamattu', as part of my wajib Hajj or mustahab Hajj or ihtiyat Hajj or penalty Hajj, for myself or my sponsor or beneficiary, qurbatan ila Allah. Again, just like Arafah, wuquf cannot be done in a state of sleep. So if from the time period of just before the Fajr till the sunrise a person is totally asleep, that wuquf is batil. However, this wuquf is not wajib on everyone. There are some exemptions. Children and women and the elderly people and the sick, or those who are able-bodied, but they're fearful for some reasons, because of circumstances. Or those who are under distress, they are allowed to skip the wajib stay in Muzdalifah from Fajr till sunrise. They can do an alternative emergency stay in the night time. Only at night time, leave Muzdalifah and proceed to Mina before sunrise, before Fajr. One point of note is, we've experienced in the past that sometimes we get caught up in traffic after departure from Arafah, and we don't arrive in Muzdalifah before midnight. If for some reason we have skipped the Maghrib prayers in Arafah, in the hope of praying Maghrib and Isha together in Muzdalifah, but then we were caught up in traffic, we beware then that there is a qaza time of Salah, and that is midnight. So if you're stuck in traffic somewhere, make sure you get off the bus and pray your wajib Maghrib and Isha before it becomes qaza. The wajib stay, alternative emergency wajib stay for women, children, sick and elderly, can be just a few minutes, even 5 minutes for example. They make the niyyah of wuquf, they stay for a few minutes, and then they proceed to Mina, no problem. Those who escort and accompany the sick and the old and the elderly and the women and the children, the volunteers, no. For them this exemption is not there, that they skip the stay before Fajr till sunrise. They escort the needy cases to Mina, drop them, and they must come back themselves to do the wajib stay in Muzdalifah. So, there is an emergency stay in Muzdalifah, the night stay before Fajr, for the exempted cases. God forbid, and it did happen with us on one of the past years, if there is a delay in arrival from Arafah to Muzdalifah till midnight, till Fajr, no, till sunrise, you don't come because you're caught up in traffic. Literally the buses are moving every 5-10 minutes, a few meters only, because of the traffic. No problem. Then there is an emergency day stay in Muzdalifah, which is after sunrise, before the Dhuhr of Eid. So what is the significance of Muzdalifah? Look at it this way. God is testing us by asking us to leave everything behind in our home. Our family, our possessions, our house, our business, everything. Leave them behind. Come to me alone. And leave behind your fanciful attractions of the dunya. Come to an open desert which has got nothing. Makkah originally, there has nothing. Now because of the wealth, they've managed to construct modern buildings. But even these modern buildings, we take up temporary residence. Even that residence, Allah says, leave behind. Come out in the open desert. Come out in the desert, in Arafah. You can set up a tent if you want, but even without the tent, under the open sky, mustahab. But even this temporary residence, leave it behind now. Come to the open sky in Muzdalifah. In Muzdalifah there's nothing. Come to a total, isolated, exposed environment. In Arafah you had to take up a spiritual class during the daytime, dua, during the daytime. Now come and attend the night spiritual class in Muzdalifah. So it's as if God is saying, get closer to me. But there's only one way you can get closer to me. If you get far away from all those things which are blocking you from reaching me. Muzdalifah is amazing. There's nothing out there, nothing. You're out there in the open. It's you and your Lord. Nothing to stop you. Of course, if you think and prepare in the right way. So what are we supposed to do? Pray 2 rakat mustahab salah. Shibli, this is from the riwayah of Shibli. Shibli, did you pass by those 2 signs which tell you that these are the limits to go to Muzdalifah? Shibli, did you pick up pebbles in Muzdalifah? Shibli, Did you pause and make the wuquf in the Mash'ar al-Haram? Yes, I did. So when you prayed the 2 rak'ah in Muzdalifah, did you thank your Lord that He has given you the ni'mah, that now you are preparing yourself to receive the gifts of Eid? Shibli, when you cross those 2 limits to go to Muzdalifah, did you realize that your whole life has got one path, which has got limits within which you need to move? Shibli, when you started picking up the pebbles to hit the shaitan on the day of Eid, you picked up these pebbles in the night in Muzdalifah, did you make the niyyah that shaitan wins over me by attracting me to sins? I'm going to fight against sins by preparing myself with the weapons here. And these are the pebbles. Shibli, did you make the niyyah when you stopped at Mash'ar? Did you experience the true power and the majesty of your Lord under the open sky when you were there? Mustahab to pick up pebbles in Muzdalifah, not wajib. And therefore, in order to experience the spirituality of Muzdalifah, I always say, look at the mustahab acts. So mustahab to do ghusl, mustahab to pray salah, mustahab to make tasbih, subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar 100 times in Muzdalifah. Mustahab to recall the different ni'mah of God. Mustahab to recite salawat on the Prophet and the imams, and especially the living imam, whom we expect to be also attending the Hajj, inshaAllah. Make dua for yourself, for the family, for the friends. Mustahab, again, to make istighfar. Mustahab to pray the Salatul Layl in Muzdalifah on the eve of Eid. Mustahab, obviously, to pick up pebbles. Recommended 70 pebbles, because there will be 7 on the day of Eid, and then 21 on the 11th day, 21 on the 12th day, and in case you stay the 13th, another 21 for that. After sunrise on the day of Eid, we now proceed to the next stop, which is Mina. Mustahab, again, to confess to our sins at the time of sunrise. Mustahab, therefore, to proceed to Mina in a state of dhikr and istighfar. Mustahab, to pass by a particular place known as Wadi Muhassir. It may not be possible for everyone if they're moving by bus, because bus routes are controlled by traffic. But those of the Hujjaj who are strong enough and able-bodied enough to go walking as pedestrians, let them try not to miss crossing the Wadi Muhassir. In fact, it is so important, not wajib, mustahab, it's so important. The riwayah says, if you miss passing by there, go return and do qaza, pass again there in the Wadi Muhassir. This is the wadi where the army of Abraha came and was targeted by God's punishment. You can't reach the house of God till you have declared your enmity to the enemies of God. So the next wajib act now on the day of Eid is to go to Mina for the purpose of stoning and sacrificing and shaving the head. You know, the Quran has got a beautiful description of the flow of pilgrims. It says, ثُمَّ أَفِيضُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَفَاضَ النَّاسِ, and then flow with the flow of humanity. Literally, there's a sea of humanity flowing. If you get a vantage point to stand anywhere in Mina, let's say on a bridge, and you look, you can see a whole river, a whole sea of black heads moving, humanity flowing. This is the one area throughout. Remember, when we go for Umrah Tamattu, we are all there at our own timings. Anytime in Shawwal, Zilqa'dah, we can go for Umrah Tamattu. But for the first time, all the Hujjaj are sequestered in Arafah, but they're spread out. Muzdalifah, they narrow down in a valley. But Mina is where the whole humanity will be flowing on the day of Eid. The spirit of Hajj. I am now asking for forgiveness from God from in Arafah, and getting closer to God, and even closer to Him in Muzdalifah. I have prepared to fight the shaitan by picking up the pebbles in Muzdalifah. I'm now arriving in Mina to carry out that fight against shaitan. Alone? No. Together, collectively, we shall fight. Kwa nini? Because sababu this shaitan has declared war, not on me alone, he has declared war on all of us. فَبِعِزَّتِكَ, he challenges God. I swear by your majesty, لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ, I will do my utmost to mislead all of them in all possible ways. And God says, really? I will do everything to bring the whole of humanity to stand against you. Mina is the demonstration of God's power to raise a people pure, dedicated, ready to fight for the sake of God against anything which stops them from reaching God, and that's the devil. So we proceed in this so-called tent city to now go for stoning and slaughtering and shaving. There's some basic rules we need to remind ourselves. I just wanted you to appreciate that the older times, they had a single pillar to hit the shaitan. But now, the Jamara has been expanded several times over. Plus, it's multi-story. So this is the ground floor. This is the wall behind which we will be required to stand. This hole is the Jamara. And above will be the first floor and the second floor of the Jamara. Before we discuss about the Jamara, we need to know how to stone and which stones are permissible. This is a picture of the desired pebbles. The pebbles should be 7 in number, but they should be of particular size, picked up from a particular site, and they should be of a particular texture and state, and they should be belonging to myself, and preferably, but not wajib, they should be spotted. Size. The size of the pebble is that it should not be too small to be just like a particle, and not big like a rock. It should be average as to fit on my thumb, because it's mustahab to flick the pebble onto the Jamara. Where do I get the pebbles from? Mustahab, but not wajib, to get it from Muzdalifah. But I can pick it up from anywhere within the haram. So even I can pick it up in Mecca, which is part of the haram, except Masjid al-Haram in the haram, and except from Masjid al-Khif in Mina, which is again part of the haram. Or incidentally, once I leave Arafah, I've entered the haram again. So anywhere from after Arafah till Mina, or even Mecca, I can pick up my pebbles, no problem. Muzdalifah is mustahab. The requirement is I should pick up a new pebble, unused pebble. Kwanini, Sijuri. Maybe I'm fighting a shaitan. Shaitan is using new weapons against me. I've got a new protection against him, for example. And you have to pick up a pebble and use a pebble that belongs to you, not somebody else's pebble. That's a ghasbi. And the timing of the stoning is from sunrise on the day of Eid till sunset on the day of Eid. You are allowed to carry out the stoning. Except, of course, for the women and the weak and the old and the sick and the children, they are allowed to do it on the eve, on the night before their Eid. There's an exemption. Where should the stoning be done? On the ground floor or on the first, second floors? No, definitely it should be done on the ground floor. What about the upper floors? Some mujtahids say ihtiyat wajib. No! In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Ma'asumin ﷺ, the pillar did not extend so high. So they make ihtiyat. You should do it on the ground floor. Lakini, there's a problem. Sometimes the crowd is so huge that the security forces will divert you to the first floor or the second floor. Or no, they may place restrictions right from the beginning. People from this particular region in the world or this country in the world, at this particular time, they're supposed to come on this particular floor. So basically you're stuck now. So what if you're caught in a situation where you've ended up in the wrong crowd, directed to the first or second floor? No problem. There are other mushtaris we allow. And because Hazrat al-Sistani and Marwat al-Akhui make ihtiyat, you can make a ruju and go and do it on the first or second floor, no problem. So I've come to the ground floor, and there is this huge wall. The original was a pillar, but now it's a huge wall. And I'm supposed to hit the original. Where is the original? So if we can locate the original, we must do so. And according to some scholars who have records of the past before the new expansion took place, they say it is the middle section which represents the older pillar. Again, don't forget the niyyah. I'm hitting 7 pebbles at the Jamaratul Aqaba, as part of my Hajj Tamattu, part of my Hajj Wajib Mustahab or Ihtiyat Hajj for myself or my sponsor or beneficiary, Qurbatan ilallah. Look at this picture, and I don't know if you can appreciate the different slabs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 onwards. There are almost about 30 something slabs across the wall. Roughly in the middle, so you're talking about the 15th, 16th slabs would be the middle section. And sometimes you find there are already marks in that area. But obviously you have to count the slabs to locate the middle section. So I'm ready, I've made the niyyah. I want to now strike with my pebbles. The requirement is, after making the niyyah, it is wajib that I must throw. Rami is to throw. Rami is not to place and present to the shaitan, my gift to you. No, I've come here to strike. Number 2, and the rami has to be done by the hand, not by kicking by the foot. Preferably, of course, keep the pebble on the thumb and flick it. And the strike has to be monitored, that it goes and strikes directly. Not that you didn't get placed near the wall, so you ended up standing far away from the wall, and then you hit, but you didn't hit with enough force, so it landed up on the head of the pilgrim in front of you, and then it bounced and ricocheted to the wall. No, you're striking a pilgrim, not the shaitan. It has to strike directly. So if you fail to strike directly, you repeat the throw. And it has to be 7 times, not less than 7. And it has to be sequential. You can't take 7 pebbles in a go collectively. Here you go! Curse you. No, this is not mustahab to speak such words and not to do it in this manner. It has to be sequentially, one by one. And you have to do it by yourself. Unless, of course, you can't come from the tent to the Jamara, then you delegate somebody else. If you have any doubts during the Rami, hey, I was monitoring closely the trajectory of my pebble. Hey, but there's so many pebbles striking. I'm not sure, did I strike or I didn't? If you doubt, repeat till you're sure. Shaitan says, ouch. Number 2, I struck, but how many? Was it 6? Was it 7? Was it 8? If it's more than 7, good. If it's less than 7, you are doubting you have completed 7 or not, you must make sure you hit as many as to ensure that you have struck 7 times. More than 7, no problem. Ignore it. If you have any doubts after you leave the area of Jamara, ignore those doubts, no problem. What's the significance of the Rami? The riwayah says, you want to know what is Hajj al-Akbar, the bigger pilgrimage? Unlike the lesser pilgrimage or Umrah Tamattu, the bigger pilgrimage means you must hit shaitan before you come for the Tawaf al-Hajj. So this is a very important pillar and component of the Hajj. With every strike that we make, our sins are forgiven. A major sin is forgiven. So perhaps the number 7 reflects the major sins that we are determining spiritually to fight against, which shaitan uses in us to deviate us. And therefore it's mustahab to recite takbir before you strike. You make all your efforts to deviate me, but I have the strength and power from a power greater than you, and that is God. With my full force and determination, and with help of God, I can easily defeat you. Allahu Akbar. Mustahab. I mentioned to you, there was a case of a person who said that problems in controlling sins after Hajj. Doesn't listen to me, listens to music, and please advise him. And I said, listen, you went to on the day of Eid and after Eid and you hit the shaitan, and you did it with all your strength and determination, and you said God's power is greater. Allahu Akbar. When you get the temptation to do sin or listen to music, this is what you need to recall: your determination and resolution of what you did in the presence of God in Mina. After completion of stoning is dhabah. I will not go into details of slaughtering because the circumstances in Mina do not allow for every pilgrim to do it. It's all going to be done by the organizers of the Hajj caravan. So all these rules will be applied by them. They are experienced, they know, trust them. They will guide you what you're supposed to do. One important thing is you make the niyyah. The niyyah that you're appointing so and so person to delegate you to carry out the slaughtering on your behalf as part of your Hajj Tamattu, part of your Hajj Wajib Hajj or Mustahab Hajj or Ihtiyat Hajj for yourself or for your sponsor. Qurbatan ila Allah. I'm skipping all these details because it doesn't apply. Then they will instruct you how to even use that meat. But one important thing, again, Hajj al-Akbar, the bigger pilgrimage, means stay in Arafah, means stone the shaitan, means slaughter and sacrifice the animal before you come for Tawaf al-Hajj. Mustahab, therefore, the riwayah says that when you do the dhabah or your agent on your behalf does the dhabah, you recite this dua: Bismillahi wallahu akbar, Allahumma minka wa ilayka, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. The spirit of this sacrifice is, oh Allah, whatever I have is from you, and whatever I have, I'm ready to give in your way. That's the spirit of the sacrifice. Though I'm not there, but my agent is doing it, but it's with my permission, and therefore with my spirit, it will be done. And therefore he gets the thawab, and you also get the thawab. The next wajib act after completion of the slaughtering is the halq and the shaving for men and the trimming of the hair for women. Question: is shaving wajib, or just like women, for men, taqsir and trimming of the hair of the head is permissible on the day of Eid? Answer: it depends. Are you a first timer doing Hajj for the first time, wajib Hajjatul Islam, or no? If it's a first time, sorry, you must shave. Ihtiyat wajib, according to Hazrat al-Sistani. However, some mushtaris allow that you can trim instead of shaving. Again, it's an act of ibadah. Before I can go for Tawaf al-Hajj, I need to do this ibadah. The ayah in Surah Fatih says, لَتَدْخُلُنَّ الْمَسْجِدَ الْحَرَامِ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهِ آمِنِينَ محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين. O Prophet, you shall enter Masjid al-Haram. You are in Medina. The mushrikeen have blocked you from entering to Makkah for doing Umrah in the 6th year of Hijrah, in the year of Sulh Hudaybiyah. Inshallah, you shall enter Masjid al-Haram. You will enter with your heads shaved. Shaving is part of the ibadah of entering in Masjid al-Haram. Or muqassirin, you can do even taqsir. So this ibadah, I have to make the niyyah of ibadah. I'm shaving my head for the first timers. The others are the choice. As part of Hajj Tamattu', as part of the Wajib Hajj Mustahab or Ihtiyat Hajj for myself or for my sponsor, Qurbatan ila Allah. Can I do it myself or some other pilgrim should do it? No, that pilgrim first has to trim or shave himself, then make you shave. Beard shaving, haram, not allowed. When is the time for shaving? On the day of Eid. For whatever reason, if there's a delay in shaving, you can do it on the 11th or the 12th, up to the 13th, you're allowed to shave. Where should the shaving be done? In Mina. For whatever reason, if you have left, let's say you have decided to join the volunteers who go to the slaughterhouse to slaughter on behalf of the other Hujjaj, come back to Mina to do the shaving of the head. What's the significance? The Quran says to enter Masjid al-Haram, you should either be shaven or your hair should be trimmed and cropped. And there's an interesting dua to be recited. The dua says that whereas the hair has been cut and shaved, you should make this dua. Allahumma a'atini bi kulli sha'ratin nuran yawm al-qiyamah. Oh Allah, with every strand of hair, give me nur on the day of judgment. This means that I went to Arafah by your command. I prayed and asked for forgiveness, and you forgave me. I came to Mash'ar al-Haram and I prayed and I asked for forgiveness. And now, before I reach you, you told me I have to fight the shaitan because blocking me to reach you is my external enemy. I fought against him. My internal enemy, the sacrifice I did of the animal. And now everything I have I've given to you. Now am I ready to come? No, wait. What is this hair doing on your head? So you want to show yourself that you're something? Clean, remove this hair also, then come to me. Remove anything and everything that can block you, distract you, divert you from reaching me. Cleanse yourself, then come to me. Get nur, then come to the God of nur. This is the significance of, perhaps, the significance of shaving and trimming. I'll skip the details, I've just given you this summary. And finally, once we have performed the halq, now we are ready to go to Makkah for Tawaf al-Hajj. The Tawaf is the same as the Tawaf al-Umrah. The niyyah is different only. And after Tawaf al-Hajj, Salat al-Tawaf. Same like Salat al-Tawaf of Tawaf al-Umrah. And then after that, Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. Same like the previous Sa'i. And after that, the Tawaf al-Nisa. But there is also Salat Tawaf al-Nisa. The only thing that you need to remember is the sequence. First is stoning on the day of Eid, then is slaughtering, then is shaving. If for whatever reason you shave before you slaughter, you gave your agency to somebody to go and slaughter on your behalf. You thought 2, 3, 4 hours slaughtering has been done. Yallah, I shaved my head. Later on you discovered, no, the agent got a problem, he was stuck, he was stopped, he lost his money, the animal ran away, he went there, the animal was sold away, anything could have happened. Till Maghrib, your animal has not been slaughtered and you have shaved already. No, my friend, you've done your sajda before your ruku'. Sorry. Stop everything, stop. After you do your shaving, you're allowed to come out of ihram, your unstitched dress, and wear your stitched dress. If you've already worn the stitched dress and you got the phone call, sorry, immediately remove your stitched, go back to your unstitched. Wait till the next day, on the 11th, daytime, the qaza slaughtering is done for you, then you can come out of ihram. Sometimes it happens, but you need to keep in mind, don't go for shaving till the news comes to you from your agent that your animal has been slaughtered. So, once you finish your trimming and shaving on the day of Eid, everything becomes halal of the restrictions of ihram except for perfume. That perfume will become halal after you go for Tawaf al-Hajj and Salat Tawaf al-Hajj. And the sa'i between Safa and Marwa. However, the restriction of women will remain, or spouses rather. That will only become halal after completion of Tawaf al-Nisa and Salat Tawaf al-Nisa. However, the restriction of hunting in the haram will remain so long as you're in Makkah. So by this stage, the rituals of Makkah are over. There's one more ritual that remains, and that is of Mina. I'm taking a short break here in case if you have questions, and then I'll conclude with the rituals of Mina, the night stay and the day stay, inshallah. If there are any questions or clarifications, please. Yes, please. Yes. Okay. If it was accidental, you're forgiven. If you knew that it is going to happen, then it's haram, then there'll be a kafara to be paid. But the safe thing is to observe the barber. Is he a reliable, experienced barber, or is just a money maker amateur who happens to find a good victim? If you're a first timer, no. First timer, no. So if there are no, yes, please. Can you hold your wife's hand in tawaf? No problem, provided you observe the rule of ihram, which is if you're in the ihram for umrah or of hajj, the ihram only for umrah, and the ihram of, she's very quick. So she's going to pull you. Sorry? You have to hold her hand. No problem, you're allowed to hold your hand. To hold her hand, if you are in the state of ihram, then you must make sure there is no lust in the touch. If there's no lust, there's no problem. The riwayah says that I came to the Imam and I asked him, my wife is riding the animal, I wish to help her to come off and disembark from the animal. So I help her, I hold her. Is it allowed? Imam says, no problem. Then he says, what if a shahwa begins during the touch? So then it is wajib to control the shahwa. If you cannot control the shahwa, then you must stop the touch. But after tawaf al-nisa, there's no problem. So if you're doing a mustahab tawaf, no problem. Wajib in the state of ihram, no. No with lust. Yes, without lust. You can touch and hold. Do ladies do tawaf al-nisa married or unmarried? Oh yes. Not only ladies, but also children, if they've been put into the state of ihram. Not only children, but elderly people who don't expect now to get married at all. Even they have to do. Not only that, tawaf al-nisa must also be done by the agent who is doing niyabat hajj for a beneficiary or a sponsor who is deceased, who is left the dunya. Still, you have to do tawaf al-nisa. That's part of the hajj. Are we allowed to hit the pebbles from the backside of the pillar? No problem. Mustahab, when you do Jamaratul Aqaba stoning on the day of Eid, that you should give your back to Makkah. That means your back to the Qibla and you face the pillar. Mustahab. But on the 11th day, we'll come to that. The 11th and the 12th is mustahab to face the Qibla while stoning. Yes, please. The niyyah should be done. The niyyah should be done before the wuquf at the time of dhuhr. So normally what will happen is, by the time of adhan is approaching, the pilgrims will be alerted. Please go and prepare yourself, make your wudu or ghusl. By the time of adhan, please come here. As the adhan is pronounced, the niyyah is made, and then the salat al-dhuhr is prayed. Normally they're trying to get open buses, yes. They managed to get a few. No problem, you're allowed to travel at night. The traffic rules allow that, yes. Yes. Reflective surface, Hazrat Ayatollah Sistani says precaution, avoid looking at your own reflection. But Marhum Ayatollah Khoi says no problem. If it's not a mirror, it's just a reflective surface, a glass, no problem, you're allowed to look. So if you allow me, let me just conclude with the remaining rituals of Mina. Mina, there is a wajib night stay and a wajib day stay. The wajib night stay is on the eve of the 11th of Zul-Hijjah and the eve of the 12th of Zul-Hijjah. Optional 13th, if you want, you may overstay. How long should you stay in Mina for the night? Wajib night stay is half a night, minimum. You can stay the whole night, but minimum wajib is half the night. But it's exactly half the night. So you can't be a few minutes lesser or few minutes short of the half night. So it can be any half, the first half of the night from the Maghrib till the midnight, till just a little after midnight, or you can spend the second half, means a little before midnight till Fajr, or no, you can spend the whole night in Mina. That is wajib. But half doesn't mean the second quarter of the first half and the first quarter of the second half. No, it has to be the first half from Maghrib to midnight, or the second half from midnight to Maghrib, not somewhere in between. Niyyah is wajib, this is ibadah. وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهِ, the Quran says in Surah Baqarah, ayah 203, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهِ فِي أَيَّامٍ مَعْدُودَاتٍ. So this is an ibadah. Ibadah means you make the niyyah, I'm making my night stay in Mina as part of my Hajj Tamattu', as part of my wajib or mustahab or ihtiyat Hajj, for myself or for my sponsor or beneficiary, qurbatan ila Allah. And therefore, if you forget the niyyah, you're asleep, Maghrib came, and then you woke up after Maghrib without niyyah, sinful, but there's no kafara. However, if you miss the niyyah in the first half, so let's say you sleep the whole of the first half, and you wake up before midnight, then you must stay for the second half with the niyyah. What if somebody doesn't stay at all in Mina, goes to Makkah, doesn't come back to Mina, 11th and 12th? Serious. Serious. There's a penalty. A goat has to be paid. And therefore, the return from Makkah, if somebody plans to leave Mina on the 11th and the 12th to carry out either the wajib rituals in Makkah, or no, just to visit Makkah, or he has gone to help in the slaughtering on the 10th or the 11th, he must or she must come back to spend half the night. So if they delay their arrival in Mina for half the night, even by a few minutes, penalty. A goat has to be paid. So this is serious. You must be very careful about your timing. Of course, there are exemptions. There are some people allowed not to stay in Mina, those who are sick or for whom it's very difficult. But even they, if they're not allowed to stay in Mina, for reasons, their missing of Mina is not sinful now because they've got an excuse. But they are missing something very important. Pay a goat as a penalty. No, not as a penalty, as a compensation. Unless, of course, you decide not to spend time in Mina. Instead, you spend the whole of the night in Makkah in ibadah. You sleep, goat. So that's the night stay, 11th and 12th. There is also a wajib day stay in Mina. But that's not for the whole of the 11th and the whole of the 12th. Only as much time as is necessary to carry out the 3 wajibat of hitting the lesser, the medium and the bigger shaitan. As much time required for that is wajib. Beyond that you can leave Mina. So there are 3 jamara, the sughra, lesser one, the wusta, the middle one, and the kubra, which we have to stone 7 times each of them. When? On the 11th and 12th, any time after sunrise and before sunset. Who should carry out? Everyone should stone during the daytime, including the women and children and the elderly and the sick. That exemption was the day of Eid. On the day of 11th and 12th, this exemption is not there for women and children. And again, the lesser, medium and bigger stones, pillars have to be hit in sequence. First the lesser, then the medium, then the biggest. If the sequence is broken, you have to repeat it again. Nighttime hitting on the 11th and 12th as an exception is allowed only if exceptionally the crowd is huge and women and children cannot do it anymore. Then as an exception they're allowed to do it at nighttime. Finally, on the 12th day, at the time of Dhuhr, after Dhuhr, you are allowed to leave from Mina and your Hajj is over. What is the significance of the Mina stay? The Quran says, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهِ, remember God. How to remember God? There is nothing which is wajib in Mina to remember God, except for the wajib salah in Masjid al-Khif, and except for hitting the shaitan. So it's as if I have purified myself in Arafah, and then in Muzdalifah, and then I've hit the external enemy, and then I have hit the internal enemy by slaughtering and sacrificing, and I've removed all the remaining sense of self-beauty that I may have had, and then I went for ziyarah, tawaf ziyarah, and then the sa'i, and the tawaf nisa. I have purified myself thoroughly. Wassalam, I want to go back home. No, wait, don't. Go back to Mina. Oh, why? Hit the shaitan. But I've already hit him on the day of Eid. No, hit him again on the 11th. Okay, I've hit him on the 11th. Can I go? No! Go back on the 12th. Hit him again 3 times. Now you can leave. Kwa nini? Sijui. Maybe. Shaitan is khannas. Khannas is one whom you attack once, he goes away. Once you are quiet, he comes back. So we say, you're going to come back to me? I'm going to come back to you. Not only to you, to your younger brother and to your youngest brother. All the 3 of you. Bring your whole army, I'm ready with my weapons. Not one day, even the 2nd day. Not the 2nd day, if possible, even the 3rd day. And that becomes a habit for us, that whenever we are tempted with sins, Allahu Akbar, with God's power I can defeat any evil, inshaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.